Yo, so I'm looking at the NFL 100. They've been doing this list for the last couple of weeks. The NFL 100. They're doing like they're honoring all of the great players, the top 100 all-time players, and they did the receiving list last night. They named 12 receivers, and T.O. was left out because I'm like, why is T.O. trending? What did he do? What did he say? And someone said, well, what do you think, T.O.? And he says, pure hate, but God is good and I will continue to smile and keep my head above. Why is the NFL so fucking petty towards Terrell Owens? Like, what did Terrell Owens do that was that bad that they treat him like the redheaded stepchild? They treat T.O. like that kid that just doesn't matter, like Malcolm in the Middle or something. Like, no matter what he does, they just will never give him any real due. And they got guys on that list who look like, local mail delivery guys and truck drivers. And I'm looking at these guys, and look, Steve Largic, I give you, but look at some of the guys on this. Don Hutchison had 99 touchdowns. Okay, Steve Largic, I give it to you. Lance Allworth, no, I'm not buying that. Raymond Berry, Paul Warfield, Elroy Hurt. I mean, who? And I mean, I get it. It's 100 years, so they're trying to pay homage to every generation, to just pay respects. But you got guys on this list that were playing when they were wearing leather helmets and shit, and black players weren't even allowed to play in the NFL. Okay, so you got guys on this list that I don't even think would even start in today's NFL, let alone would play receiver. Some of these guys don't have the athleticism and run fast enough to play in today's NFL for the last 30 years. These guys are now nowhere near in the great condition or shape that guys like Jerry Rice and beyond that you've seen in the last 35 years be. Some of these cats that are on this list that played in the 50s and 40s, they would be fullbacks or something like that now. They wouldn't even be playing receiver. And now Randy, who will always be forever linked with T.O. because they played in the same era, drafted same year, 98. Moss is my favorite receiver ever. Got me back into watching football. Randy's only got 3 more touchdowns than him. He's second all time with 156. T.O.'s got 153. He's third all time in touchdowns. I don't know any player that in any league, baseball, hockey, football, basketball, that is this fucking disrespected. Anybody who's got numbers like that are top 5 all time in any kind of important category, they're first ballot Hall of Famers. They roll a carpet out for them, and they speak nothing but positivity. T.O. is the opposite. He's the most disrespected NFL player ever. T.O. I mean, they made him wait a whole year to get into the Hall of Fame. He should have been first ballot when you look at his numbers. Forget about the push up, the sit ups in the driveway, and him calling out Donovan McNabb and him calling out Romo and Garrett. Yeah, all of that petty shit was off the field. On the field, based off his production, which you should be, that's what you should be judged for. But they do a lot of politics in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They made Chris Carter wait 4 years. Chris Carter, Randy Moss's teammate. Chris Carter was on this list. I'm sorry, Chris Carter was great. He wasn't better than T.O. Larry Fitzgerald, I have no problem with that. But there's some guys on this list. Marvin Harrison, he played with Peyton Manning. I don't know. He might kind of have the stigma. He played with an all-time great quarterback. I don't know how I really feel about Marvin Harrison. Not saying he didn't deserve it, but they put Calvin Johnson on this list over T.O. Calvin Johnson. And I think Calvin Johnson only played from '07 to 2015. No, man. Calvin Johnson didn't impact the game enough to be on that list over Terrell Owens. That is disgusting. And like I say, the pettiness has been going on for years, and that's why T.O., when he did get into the Hall of Fame, he decided not to even go to Canton, and he had his own ceremony at his school and was like, no, fuck that. Y'all send me my Hall of Fame bus, and I'm going to have my own thing. I'm not even going to be associated with y'all cocksuckers. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I mean, T.O. was built like a tight end. He was built like a Shannon Sharp, but he could run a 4.4. He could outmuscle corners and safeties, and he was not afraid to go across the middle against linebackers. He possessed a gene that you don't see a lot of receivers do now. A lot of receivers are scared to go across the middle, even as soft as the game has become. T.O. was like, fuck that. And he played against Ray Lewis in his prime and Urlacher and all of that. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I've never been the biggest T.O. fan. Like I say, I was always more of a Randy Moss guy, but the guy was amazing. And there was really no game plan for him. You couldn't just put one elite corner. I've never seen an elite corner just take T.O. out of a game. Show me an example of somebody just erasing T.O. from the game when he was healthy. I can't think of any moments like that. He was the one X factor every single week. He dominated his position. And when you dominate the position and when you look at his numbers, it's ridiculous how they just overlook him. And like I say, they always do that. So this has been them being petty. I mean, Marvin Harrison, Larry Fitzgerald, Raymond Berry, Paul Warfield. You know who Paul Warfield is. I'd have to look him up on Wikipedia. I'm not gonna lie. Lance Allworth, Steve Largent, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice. Enough said. Unexplainable all time. Nah, I just don't. This was ridiculous, and they have to really hold themselves accountable. And they only did what was it, 12 guys. But they got a hold. They could have squeezed in an extra one and put T.O. in there, or they could have just simply took someone off the list. And I think if you're gonna take someone off, some of these unathletic older white guys, of course, but Calvin Johnson didn't have the impact that T.O. had. I don't even think Calvin Johnson ever won a playoff game in Detroit. Barry Sanders of his generation for different position, but yeah, they definitely. And like I say, Moss, Randy, and Chris Carter were kind of looked at as jerks when they played too, but it's working for the NFL media after your career is kind of like a cheap way of retooling your persona, because if they see, oh, he comes to work in a suit, he's really well dressed, he's really well mannered, you can kind of change your perception that people have of you that was negative. And I think that helped Randy. Also, he rejuvenated his career with the Patriots and broke Jerry's record. After that, they had no choice but to put Randy in first ballot. I don't know if they would have gave Randy that first ballot Hall of Fame induction had he not went to New England and then worked for the media. Chris Carter worked for the media. That helped him out too. Warren Sapp went straight to being an analyst. It's kind of like if you want to build your credit up, you take out a little cheap loan and pay it back. And, it's little loopholes. And T.O. is not working for the media, And then on top of that, speaking of the media, you got assholes like Skip Bayless who have been pushing this team obliterator narrative for the last 10 years. Oh, he destroyed this locker room after locker room, and all that. I'm like, look, he wasn't the best teammate. A lot of guys weren't the best teammate. Michael Jordan wasn't the best teammate. Punched Steve Kerr in the face. What did he do on the court/field? This man dominated. And they should be ashamed of themselves that they left T.O. off that fucking list. And I want to see if they talk about this on Undisputed on Monday. Skip's gonna have his thing. Skip might have been one of the anonymous voters. Somebody. Who I want to know who were the voters for this shit. Who voted? If somebody know that, let me know who voted for this shit. What y'all think, man? T.O. deserves to be on that fucking list. Number 3 all time, 153 touchdowns. This is a fucking joke, man. This list lost all credibility after the night.